Howdy, folks. Welcome back or welcome aboard. You are listening to the Doc Owen Show. We are glad to have you. Got a full house tonight. First time in quite a while. I am joined in the Hilltop Studios by...
I'm a Surefire.
And...
Uncle Bocce.
We're all together again.
We are.
Not next week, but we're all together this week.
That's right.
Okay.
Three Musketeers.
Yep. We have... summer times are kind of. I mean, we travel. You know, we got family this, we got family that.
We got to do some fun
Uncle
stuff.
Bocce has to go dip his toes in the Gulf of Mexico and turn it into red tide or whatever it is that's going on down there.
And have some fun.
That's Florida.
We have, but it's on the Gulf side.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was on the Atlantic side.
No, it's on the Gulf side.
I stand correct, or I sit corrected.
There you go. We have a jam-packed show for you tonight.
Boy, do we.
And I think you are going to enjoy it. I know I certainly enjoyed putting it together. Let's put it that way. Mm-hmm. We have a very, very special guest, a gentleman by the name of Dinesh D'Souza.
Yay!
If you are not familiar, get off the radio.
That's right.
Dinesh is
now.
Actually, if you're not familiar, then you're exactly who we are speaking to. Dinesh is the absolute rock star of documentary movies in today's world. I mean, he puts it together chapter and verse, and you can take what is on the screen to the bank, because there is a book, actually this movie, called Death of a Nation, has 2 books behind it, and they are very well researched and referenced as, and, uses citations, et cetera, et cetera. The man does his homework. So we're going to have a conversation with Dinesh in just a little while. We are all over the social media as Doc Owen Show, DOCOWENSHOW, and you will know when we have substantially grown our audience and grown in popularity, because then we will no longer be on social media because they will take us off.
There you go.
It's the funniest thing in the world. You work, for 5 years to try to get your name out there just so that the authorities can take you off. What's that about? We have our own blog. It is called DocOwenShow.com. That they cannot take off. That's why we initiated that about a year ago and quit relying solely on social media. DocOwenShow.com. Really a good place to go. But outside of the social media, that's a direct line to us. And we have apps, which are also Doc Owen Show for Apple and Android devices. That's a wonderful place to go listen at your leisure, as well as get access to our library. And one of the things you'll find in that library, July the 12th of this year, a little less than a month ago, or a little over a month ago, we had a show, and the title of the show was As Aretha Says, RESPECT, Respect.
Mm-hmm.
And unbeknownst to us,
how fortuitous,
she is gone as of today. And
love you, girl.
Do some history. She was quite a stand-up individual.
She really is.
So,
and she could cook.
That sounds.
Who knew?
Was good.
Okay. So, what else do we need to tell them? Am I leaving anything out?
No.
Probably. So
apps.
From got the apps?
Yeah, that was my nickname too when I was in grammar school. People used to call me Apps. Who knew?
Who? Nobody knows.
I don't know about that. Okay, you kind of lost me there.
Apparently somebody did. So we are now going to begin the show in our traditional manner. Ms. Surefire is going to give us a quotation of inspiration. Uncle Bocce is going to give us this point in history, and then I'm going to close it out with sort of a leadership thing. So, Ms. Surefire, take it away.
And tonight's quote comes from one of my steady suppliers of quotes, which is brainyquote.com. That's BRAINY quote.com.
Okay.
Excuse me. And tonight's quote comes from somebody that sounds pretty interesting. I might have to do some more research on her. Her name is Pauline Hansen. And she is currently known as the Donald Trump of Australia. She is also currently the Senator of Queensland of Australia. Yep. And her quote is, "To survive in peace and harmony, united and strong, we must have one people, one nation, one flag."
Amen.
I like that girl.
I like her too.
Is she taking as much heat as the Donald is taking?
I bet she is. I bet she's dodging it every chance they give it to her.
Unbelievable.
I just want to know if she carried a gun.
She'll never tell.
I don't know.
They don't have guns enough. They're not allowed.
I know.
I bet she's
That's
going
why
to
I
change
asked
that.
the question.
I bet she'll
She
change
might.
that. Yeah.
What do you got for us, Uncle Debachi?
Today, in 1841, John Tyler, remember him? He was
I
a
do,
president.
sorta, yeah.
He was a president.
Yeah.
Well,
Quiet, soft-spoken, understated kind of guy. Just like his name.
yes, exactly. Well, he got burned in effigy outside the White House.
Do tell.
Imagine that. What he did was he vetoed the second attempt by Congress to reestablish the Bank of the United States. So he vetoed that because he didn't think it was constitutional to have a bank. Well, those guys in the Congress, they got upset, and they went out there in front of the White House. They marched there, and they had a protest, and they put up an effigy of him, and they burned it right there in the front of the White House.
Was he
Wow.
Republican?
John Tyler?
Yeah.
No, he's a Whig.
Okay.
The first Republican was Lincoln. He wasn't.
Okay.
That was way before Lincoln.
I knew the answer. I just wanted.
I know, you just
to make-
wanted me to say it.
I wanted to make the point
Yeah. Yeah,
that
okay.
it can happen to anybody.
So that's John.
That's it. That's our bullet for tonight.
That's John, yes.
All right. In honor of Miss Aretha Franklin's passing, I looked up in my God Bless America book, and there happens to be a little section on respect.
Yay.
Some scriptures about respect, and this one is from Titus 2:7, and I think she exemplified this. In everything, set them an example by doing what is good.
Amen.
That's a good one.
That is. Titus, you're a good man.
Just do what's right.
That's right.
And
Even when
and
nobody's
Simple.
looking.
That's right. Simple.
Especially when no one is looking.
That's when you know it's sincere.
That's correct. That's exactly correct.
Yeah. Good.
So, Uncle Bocce, can you hold it to about 8 to 10 minutes tonight?
I'm going to
So
do
we've
my
got
best.
plenty of time for the conversation with Dinesh.
Just tell me when
And-
to shut up.
I'll keep you on track there.
Okay.
Okay,
Watson.
good.
Okay.
Yeah, because there's a lot, but I'll try to get
Who
through
are we
real
talking
fast.
about tonight? Where are
Tonight
we?
we're going to talk about the second term of Grover Cleveland. He
Okay.
remember, he was the 22nd president, then he lost, and then he came back again to become the 24th president. So we're talking about the 24th.
Well, he needed a break.
He needed to break something, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
President number 24,
Yeah. And,
Grover Cleveland, round 2.
yep, so he was nominated again in 1892, despite New York's opposition through the political machine known as Tammany Hall. Remember, we talked about that.
I do.
So he ran against the incumbent, Benjamin Harrison, who we will talk about next time. He had lost to Benjamin Harrison 4 years earlier.
Right.
In the end, Cleveland won 277 out of a possible 444 electoral votes. So he really slammed good old Benjamin. Benjamin was actually a relative of another president. We'll talk about that next time. He forced the withdrawal of the treaty, which would have annexed Hawaii. That's one of the things he did, because he felt that America was wrong in helping with the overthrow of Queen, you got this, Liuakalani.
Yeah.
He was against that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
I'd be against it too.
he didn't want anything to do with Hawaii.
Wacky Wakalani, they call it.
Yeah. Okay, and So, in 1893, there was an economic depression. It was a pretty severe depression, and it was called the Panic of 1893. Imagine that. Thousands of businesses went under, and a lot of riots broke out, but the government did little to help. It was not seen as constitutionally allowed. Here's a Democrat saying that the help was not a constitutional responsibility.
He was absolutely correct.
Yeah, he was, obviously. But he was a Democrat, and he was correct. They don't talk about that today. Dinesh, you hear me? Yeah, you already know that. And he was also a strong believer in the gold standard, and he called Congress into session to repeal the Sherman Silver Purchase Act, which really undermined the price of gold. So he was not in favor of that. Silver, yeah.
We were still on the gold standard?
Yeah, we were still on the gold standard, but what happened was the dollar dropped because it was based on the gold.
Right.
It dropped 60% because of the silver coins that they were minting.
Okay.
So it kind of like crashed everything. Okay. He believed that that was responsible for reducing the gold. I said that. He also came through with the Pullman strike. Remember we talked about that last time. That was the first strike in American history, and he sent in troops to quell it.
We said first labor strike.
Labor strike, yes. You know what? Something is seriously wrong here. Uh-oh. Here we go. Okay. I'm sorry, folks. My desktop was.
He was. You can't see it on the radio, but he was doing a dance for your entertainment while. Well, it seemed silent, but it wasn't really.
I was getting ready to play some music.
There you go.
A
little bit of Aretha Franklin. Right?
So at this time, the Republican Party was in disarray, and a third party popped up called the People's Party, or the Populist Party.
Yep.
How about that?
Amazing.
Talk about that today. You know, in all of our. Okay, what's going on here? I'm seriously having problems here.
He's being technology challenged.
Here we go. Okay, so anyway, yeah, he won that election handily. His vice president was Adlai Stevenson. I heard that before. This is
his
really
vice president was Adlai Stevenson. No way.
Well, that's what everything all the books say. Folks, I am really having technical difficulties here.
Uh-oh.
I don't know what's going on.
You want to break? You want to turn it over to Dinesh?
Oh, let's see. What's this?
Uh-oh.
Okay.
Can we talk about
Yeah,
that?
let's go to Dinesh.
Yeah.
I'm having technical difficulties
Oh,
here, so you people are going to have to wait for it.
Sorry about that, dude.
Yeah, so am I.
Okay. Back to hard copy. Back to
Dinesh.
hard copy.
Dinesh is better anyway.
No.
Dinesh
is D'Souza. Uncle Bachi, at least tell them who you are in case they want to
Yes.
give you some technical tips.
I am the technically deprived Uncle Bachi. UNCLE Oh, jeez.
You want me to help you
Uncle
out there,
Bachi at
Bachi?
DocOwenShow.com. Call me.
It's BACI.
That's
BACI. Bachi.
LM no H.
LMNOH. I don't know what's wrong with this thing, but
Oh, no. Maybe you need to, recharge it or let it sleep for a while.
I don't know.
Maybe it's tired.
Anyway, but go ahead. Let's go with Dinesh.
There you go.
That's
There you
more important than this anyway.
Dinesh D'Souza, this is his third movie. He is and they are documentary films. Fourth movie. I was just corrected. Fourth movie.
Yeah.
It was questionable, though.
Right. They are, and it comes up in the conversation if I'm not mistaken. He's really, really a nice guy. We've had the opportunity to meet him, and we've had the opportunity to interview him or have a conversation with him. This will be the third time on the radio. And I have taken the opportunity to read the books that are behind the movies. And that's where you really get to see how much of a scholar this man is and the level of effort he puts in to the information that he delivers. So I hope you enjoy the conversation as much as I did having it, and we will take it away with Mr. Dinesh D'Souza. Thank you. You are about to have a conversation with Mr. Dinesh D'Souza. Dinesh, say hello to everybody.
How's it going? Good to be on the show. Looking forward to it.
If I make the assumption that, the vast majority of our listeners know who you are, and maybe that's an error if we've got a first-time listener or somebody that just happens to be, surfing the net looking for new information. Let me give the background, Dinesh, and then you correct me if I'm wrong or fill it in. This is your third or fourth film as a result of all the books that you write.
Yes, I've done probably 16 books, and this is the fourth film. Okay. I began with a movie on Obama, and this one is called Destination.
Yes, sir. And by the way, it is excellent. I have one overarching question for you before we, dive into what the message is, which is, to me, totally clear, and I'm sure it's very informative to a lot of folks that have not done the level of research that you did. Why is it all set in wintertime?
Well, that is what I would call the baking of the cake. In other words, we scripted this movie last year in the fall.
Yes, sir.
And then we had to go shoot it. And initially I thought I would shoot it perhaps in America, in Dallas. But some of the scenes of early fascism, I realized the problem with American actors, they're far too red-cheeked and happy-looking and well-fed, and they don't look genuine. So I said, no. I need to jump in a plane and go to Munich and Prague. I need to find German-speaking actors who can credibly play Mussolini in the black shirts and the Nazi party guys. So we went to Europe in January, and we had to put our big coats on.
Well,
and all of this was driven by the schedule of the movie. We wanted to bring it out in the summer, so we had to shoot it then.
I thought you were doing that. You did it intentionally to add to the bleakness of the message of how bleak Europe was at that time. And to me, it came across as very effective. So don't tell anybody the story you just gave me. Just go with the fact. Well, we had to make sure. and I
good one. I like it
because it really does. It adds to the overall effect of the message that you're delivering. So I thought it was totally intentional, which it was, just for a different intent, is what you're saying.
Correct.
So
correct.
It starts out. Let's back up a little bit to who is Dinesh D'Souza. I love the way you write, and I like the way you deliver the message on the screen. And I understand from previous conversations as to why you do it that way, is to reach the broader audience and try to involve and include some entertainment for those folks that just won't sit down and read a good book, which is thankfully what my mother taught me to do. So,
well, the books and movies, they go together, I think, because a book is an intellectual argument. A movie is really more of a narrative experience. The movies tell a story. And I like both mediums because, in a way, when you go into a movie, it's engaging. It's engaging all your senses. You're seeing things, you're hearing things. It appeals to your head, also appeals to your heart. So a movie can be quite transformative to someone when it's a powerful and effective movie. Now, it can't cover the wide amount of material that a book can. And so, for example, in this movie, you'll see snapshots of what the Nazis do. Right. The book lays it out, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yes,
and so the level of documentation and so on, there's just no comparison. I ideally tell people, hey, go watch the movie, and then if you like it, pick up the book, because the two go really well together.
Well, and it's difficult to put footnotes and references on the movie screen, and and have people do any sort of follow up if you pique their interest on a certain item or a certain element of it.
We have a scene in the film where the senior Nazis are sitting around a table, and they're passing the Nuremberg laws, which are the laws that make Jews into second-class citizens. Now, they have in their hands...
I recall it quite well.
Yeah, they have in their hands the democratic laws of the Jim Crow South.
Right.
And they're literally crossing out the word black, writing in the word Jew. Now, if some guy's just watching the movie, he's going to go, well, where's Dinesh getting this? I mean, is he imagining this? Is he making a metaphor? No. This is an actual meeting. The transcripts are available. It's written about by a Yale legal scholar, James Whitman. I rely on these transcripts, and so I'm reconstructing an actual event, but an event that has been very carefully left out of our textbooks because our textbooks are the product of progressive history. So what's happening here is that you need the book because the book supplies chapter and verse. If you just saw the movie, you would not know whether this was a real meeting or whether or not this was in some senses just, one may say, reconstructed in order to look like it happened.
Well, don't underestimate the power of Dinesh D'Souza. In other words, there are an awful lot of people, thankfully I hope it's growing, that kind of because you said it, then they know it's backed up by fact. Because that's the reputation that you have, which is fabulous. And if you're not aware of that, you need to be, in other words, I hear what you're saying, but don't sell yourself short.
No, this is actually, I think, why the left, when they attack me, they always distort what I say, because they're creating a straw man to knock it down. So the Washington Post had an article recently, Dinesh claims that Hitler was a liberal Democrat. No, I don't claim that. You saw the movie. I don't say that. Now, if I said that, I would be an idiot. But what I do say is that there was actually a rather distasteful traffic between American progressives and Democrats on this side of the Atlantic and both the Italian fascists and the Nazis on the other side. Mussolini was praising FDR. FDR was praising Mussolini. The Nazi newspaper had nice things to say about the New Deal. So all of this was going on in the 20s and then, of course, in the 30s, but was swept under the rug after World War II. So in a way, I think what's interesting is this movie brings to light history, but it brings to light history with a view of illuminating the present. The question I'm discussing here is fascism on the left or on the right? And I'm disputing the progressive narrative that says Trump is a fascist, the conservatives are the real fascists, fascism has always been on the right, and I show that is not true on any of the above counts.
I think if I've not learned anything else, it's that the left is generally guilty of everything they accuse the right of doing.
Isn't it incredible that they get what gets me is how they get away with it.
Yeah.
In other words, it's kind of like this. Your neighbor comes and robs your house, and that's bad enough. But if he can somehow convince you that you've been robbing his house, that would be chutzpah, right? That would be a true spectacular rhetorical achievement. And that's the left's achievement, to basically blame the Republican Party for being the party of racism, even though the Democratic Party was the party of slavery and segregation and Jim Crow and the Ku Klux Klan and racial terrorism and opposition to the civil rights movement. I mean, just as an intellectual feat, I admire how about this big lie.
That's an interesting analogy. And very appropriate. If that doesn't get the point across to some folks, then they're not going to get it ever. So, I'll openly admit that I've not read the book, and I'll openly admit that I guarantee you I will, because I do enjoy reading books, and that's where I really get as you say, the facts. I don't question it, but I do like to know where it came from. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I mean, I just give you a preview. I mean, look, we just had these white nationalists showing up in Charlottesville, yes. Right? Not very many of them, but the left has been saying now for over a year, these white nationalists are all on the right. They're right-wingers.
Yeah.
And what I do in the book is I say, all right, let's check. I look at Jason Kessler, who organized the Charlottesville rally, both times. Jason Kessler is a longtime Obama activist and Occupy Wall Street guy.
Right.
So then my mind goes, wait a minute. You're telling me that an Obama activist is a white supremacist? This is a little fishy. Let's check out the other dudes on the roster. Andrew Anglin is the co-editor of the neo-Nazi website, The Daily Stormer. Let's look him up. Oh, very interesting. He hates Donald Trump. He calls him a transvestite fag. He hates white people. He says white people are the cause of the problems of the world. Let's now turn to Lisa Turner, white nationalist, and she says that the problems in the world are due to Christianity. This turn the other cheek stuff, that's the problem. So down the list I go, and of course in the movie, as you saw, I trot out the poster boy of white supremacy, Richard Spencer,
right.
And it becomes blindly obvious to the audience, wait a minute, this guy who has been unfailingly portrayed as a right-wing white nationalist is in fact a left-wing white nationalist.
Right. You mentioned something in through the thread of all. You're a smart guy, and you do an awful lot of homework. How do you think they convince the rest of the world that they're not who they say they are? I mean,
well, I think how they pull a good question, a really good question, and I think the answer is this. Number one, the left today is very dominant in academia, the media, and Hollywood. It isn't just that they have a hegemony, they have a virtual monopoly. And the more elite the academic institution, the stronger their control. Now, this is kind of how it works. A professor will write a book, let's just say a professor at Tulane College will write a book saying fascism is on the right. Now, he'll ignore all kinds of counter-evidence, he'll ignore the fact that Nazis were the National Socialist Party, he won't even cite the Nazi platform, the 25-point platform, none of it. He will put this spin doctor book out there. Now, what will happen is his 4 other leftist colleagues in his department will all say, greatest book ever published on fascism. And then the New York Books will do a favorable review, and NPR will interview the guy, and pretty soon he's on the History Channel, and then Michael Moore comes rolling in and quotes him in his documentary. So what happens is now for the ordinary guy who doesn't know better, they go, well, wait a minute, obviously fascism is on the right, because, hey, I was in Barnes & Noble, I thought I saw something, and then I turned on NPR, I thought I heard something over there, and then I saw something on the History Channel. In other words, it's the same bullet ricocheting from one wall to the other.
Right.
But to the guy, ordinary naive person, it appears that they're getting corroborating evidence coming at them from all sides. So in my opinion, this is how big lies come to be believed, and people come to, quote, know things that simply aren't true.
So that's why in the course of earning and defending a PhD, one of the first things that they taught me was threats to validity. In other words, you can not, just because it's in a peer-reviewed journal, doesn't necessarily mean it's 100% of the facts. That's what you're telling me and the audience.
Well, yes. I'm telling you that what's happened is we have a whole generation of progressives who, whenever they encounter inconvenient facts, that are going to cause problems for their own narrative, they downplay them. I'm not saying that they're out-and-out liars. I'm just saying that they're spinning the story in such a way that the crimes of the Democratic Party are downplayed. Now, if they have to mention these crimes, they'll blame them on somebody else. America's to blame. The white man is to blame. The South is to blame. Now, hold on. You have all these Antifa guys rampaging through the South, knocking down these Confederate monuments. But Abraham Lincoln insisted that the Northern Democrats were in it together with the Southern Democrats. He called the Northern Democrats the fire in the rear. In other words, they're ready to shoot him in the back. And he told Senator Sumner, they're more dangerous than the Confederacy. So what I'm getting at is progressive historiography downplays this. Why? Because they want to take the blame off the Democratic Party and put it on the South. So that's the game they play, and kind of my expertise is at catching them in the act.
And it's a full-time job.
It's a full-time job in part because not many people are doing it. A lot of people are focusing on fake news. I focus on fake narratives, fake history, fake scholarship. And so I kind of have the field to myself, and man, is it a pretty fertile field.
Well, Yeah, except we need to. Here's what I hear you saying: we need to create a ricochet effect for you, and folks like you by adding more fuel to the fire, more researchers doing the same thing.
Absolutely, and also building megaphones to get the message out, and because the left has these huge megaphones. And by the way, when I put out the movie, they'll ignore it. So right now, the movie's in 1,000 theaters, but ABC, CBS, NBC, CNN, they're all pretending that there's no such movie. They think if they don't cover it, it's not a fact in the world. And their goal is to prevent my ideas and truths and documented facts from being put in front of people who are in their ideological camp. Why? Because if the ordinary, well-meaning progressive saw this stuff, he'd be like, wow, I better rethink my convictions. Right. I better go and check this stuff out to see if it's true. They don't want that.
Right. Well, I must tell you that we went to see them. There were exclusive showings and, showings directed at Tea Party groups and conservative groups. And they were packed. I mean, they were absolutely sold out. And so we didn't have the opportunity to attend one of those, so we trekked up from San Antonio to South Austin, and Austin is a very liberal stronghold within the state of Texas. And we wound up sitting in a theater with 6 other people. There were a total of 8 of us in this theater, and I knew it was going to be sparse because of where we went to see it. And I'm not trying to downgrade the fact that nobody's going to see the movie, because I know they are. What I'm doing is emphasizing exactly what you just said. Is when they don't publicize it, when it's just kind of one off and sitting over there by itself in an area that is not prone to think like we do, they don't want to hear the message. They don't have even the curiosity to go hear the message.
Yeah, it shows you we're not living in a normal America. Because if we were, I'd be on the Today Show, I'd be on CNN, I'd be debating with some historian, I'd be on The View. But no, this is not the way the left approaches these matters. The way they approach these matters is, how do we kind of make sure that as few people as possible. I mean, you saw the movie, right? So if you go on the reviews that are put on by these left-wingers in Variety and Hollywood Reporter, I mean, these are guys, they won't even say that the movie is intellectually wrong-headed. They say, it was the most boring movie I ever saw. Right. It's horribly shot. It put me to sleep. Now, anyone who sees documentaries, if you're going to be somewhat objective, realize we spend a fair amount of money on these things. We have very good cinematographers. The quality of our footage is actually really good.
Yeah. Well, I by the way, I don't know whether I ever mentioned it to you before, but I have a very close friend that I went to high school with that grew up and went into the film industry and made documentaries for about 20 years, and then finally hit his stride and became an Emmy-nominated director for a little program called The Sopranos. And so, but he went through exactly what you're going through in terms of the quality of the work and the message that's being delivered, and somehow it just never rises to the level of what, as you say, the media is expecting. And I find go ahead. Yep.
When you look on the site called Rotten Tomatoes, it's very interesting. You look on the left-hand side and you see literally 0% from the critics. But remember, that's 11 guys. And then you look on the right side and you see from the audience, it's over 90%. And that is over 4,000 audience reviews of people who've actually bought tickets, seen the movie, love it.
Yeah.
So the audience loves the movie, and what the critics are doing is they're trying to deter people from actually seeing it. And so that's their ideological axe to grind.
It goes totally against the grain of their opinion and their agenda, and they can't have it. I mean, if they talk it up, then they've created another problem for themselves.
Well, they've seen the movie and they can't refute it. See, these are basically, first of all, these are mostly like graphics design majors and stuff. They see all this stuff about fascism and they're like, man, we never took those courses in college. We don't know what's going on. So they can't attack it. And they also know there's a book behind it which has all the references. So that intimidates. And then you look on the right side and you see from the audience, it's over 90%. And that is over 4,000 audience reviews of people who've actually bought tickets, seen the movie, love it. So the audience loves the movie, and
Yeah.
So as a result, what they have to do is make broad generalizations like, Dinesh's movie is very simplistic. Dinesh's movie, cherry picks the facts, even though I'm cherry picking the facts that you've left out of the history book, and you're trying to work really hard from keeping people from discovering.
Yeah, it's your favorite phrase of "you're welcome to your own opinions, but not your own facts."
No, I mean, one section of the movie that I love is the left has been saying it's very difficult for Democrats to deny that they're the party of bigotry. So what they say is the party switched sides. Basically what happened is that Nixon had the Southern strategy that convinced the racist Dixiecrats to become Republicans. And now the beauty of this is that this is an empirical claim. It's either true, T, or false, F. And in the movie I decide, let's check. So I put up the 150 racist Dixiecrats, and there they are on the screen, their names and their photographs.
Yep.
And then I say, let's see how many of these dudes moved over to the Republican Party. Well, in the Senate, it's one guy, Strom Thurmond. In the House, it's one guy, Albert Watson. And the other 148 Dixiecrats stayed and died as Democrats. So the claim that the racist Dixiecrats became Republicans is a simple, flat-out falsehood.
I remember that there were two.
There were two.
I remember that shot you're talking about, and exactly that statement, because you had made that point before, and this put it up on the screen. So,
well, that's the power of a movie, and that's why you remember it. If you read it in a book, and you're a smart guy, you probably would remember it, but a lot of people wouldn't, because
I read books from word by word.
Yes, and that's good. People, if I interviewed the white supremacist Richard Spencer and I published the transcript in the book, people would read it and find it interesting, but it's a whole different level of epiphany when Richard Spencer walks onto the screen. He sits down, and you hear him say out of his own mouth. I mean, I ask him, do you believe all men are created equal? No. Do you believe our rights come from God? No. Well, who do they come from? Who gives them to us? Well, the state gives them to us. And then the guy talks about the fact he wants nationalized health care. He doesn't like Reagan. His favorite presidents are all Democrats. So when you hear him and see him say it, it carries a level of conviction that you can't do with a book transcript.
It almost brought me out of my chair. I will tell you, when you were asking him those questions and drilling and his responses, I was like, oh my gosh, he actually believes it. I mean, and
right, and I think the power of it isn't just what he believes; it's that you begin to realize that the whole mainstream media have sold us a bill of goods, because they have been telling us interminably for a year that these guys are all right-wingers. And now you see for yourself, that's really not true. So they've been trying so hard to hang the fascist and racist tail on the Republican elephant to camouflage the fact that it really belongs on the Democratic donkey.
We are, as Clint Eastwood put it, we are way too conservative to act like that. We just don't. That's not how we respond to situations. So that's what makes all that Antifa, racist, all that jazz way too unbelievable for me. I just know that that's not in our culture.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a person of color, if you will, a non-white immigrant, and I've been in the conservative precincts now for 30 years. And the racism I encounter is inevitably from the left. When Jason Kessler, when I mentioned that he was an Obama guy, he makes a video, basically, go back to India, Dinesh. I talked to Richard Spencer, another left-wing white man, go back to India, Dinesh. I've never heard any conservatives say, go back to India, Dinesh. So it's very obvious to me that, A, these guys are not conservative, and once we look into their backgrounds, we realize, of course not. They're on the left. What else would you expect?
Yeah. What else do we need to tell them, Mr. D'Souza? I would love to chat with you for hours on end, but I don't think that's fair to you.
Well, let me just make one more point, and that is I have the provocative... Sorry, go ahead.
No, please. Make your point. Yes, sir.
Oh,
all you want.
I was going to say I have this provocative movie poster, and it morphs the head of Trump and Lincoln. And admittedly, it causes some people, even some on the right, to do like a double take. Like, what? I mean, how can you compare Trump to Lincoln? No, that temperamentally these guys are very different. Lincoln, of course, is brooding and philosophical, melancholy. Trump is not. But their situations are actually remarkably similar. In 1860, an outsider who happens to be a Republican, Lincoln, wins an election, narrow election, and all hell breaks loose. And the Democratic Party, the rival party, won't have it. The Northern Democrats, some of them want Lincoln assassinated. The Southern Democrats are ready to break up the country. So I think that this is a very interesting historical precedent for what we've been seeing here in America now. And we won't find this precedent in the Reagan era. That was a different era. Right. We have to go all the way back to 1860 to see what is a situation that mirrors the one we're in now, going on now. And it happens to be, by the way, the same party. The Democratic Party, once again, cannot live with the result of an election that they lost unexpectedly, and now they're going berserk.
Well, and unfortunately, the thought that occurs to me from time to time, and I just set it aside, is that you're absolutely correct, and the longer the resistance goes on, and the more it has to be amped up to maintain itself, the more likely of history repeating itself becomes. And I really, there's no good outcome to what's going on.
Well, I see these guys becoming even more desperate, and you know why?
Yes.
Because their message is actually not going through. I mean, just recently I saw on Rasmussen polls that Trump is actually over 30% in black approval rating. Think about this. Republicans normally don't get more than 10% of the black vote.
10%,
and
yep.
Trump is at 30. What this means is that, I mean, think about it. The left is calling him a neo-Nazi and a white supremacist. So white supremacist president polling 30% of the black vote right now. I mean, this is a man bites dog story.
Yeah, it still gives me cause to pause, I guess would be the way to put it, to make sure that we maintain what the lead that we have, or the position that we have, and not squander it to divulge the truth, and hopefully put it down. It'll never go down once and for all. That's the nature of the beast. But at least get it out of our country as a thought process.
Well, my view is, and this is really why I do the work I do, that you really need to be well informed. And truth is a powerful weapon. Now, what's also needed in politics is courage. I mean, Lincoln had it.
Wow.
I think I see in Trump some of Lincoln's toughness. And amazingly, looking back, Lincoln was surrounded by, rhinos, Republicans in name only, just as Trump is.
Right.
And they were trying to get him to abandon the Republican platform of 1860. And fortunately, Lincoln said, I'm not doing it. And he stiffened the spine of the Republican Party. And I would really like to see that happen now in America also.
Well, truth has always been, my experience is, the path least taken. It's the hardest to deal with, because it's difficult to refute. And I admire you for doing it. I know that it's enjoyable and yet not easy. That you take an awful lot of guff you shouldn't have to take.
Well, if you let me close, let me just tell your audience that, deathofanationmovie.com, that's the website, because if you plug in your zip code, it'll tell you where the movie's playing near you. Go check it out, and also look for the book both in bookstores or just, through the online mechanisms of getting a book. It's a nice 1-2 punch, and I hope you'll investigate it and learn from it and enjoy it.
Dinesh, I always enjoy these, and wish we could do them more frequently. I look forward to crossing paths with you soon, sir.
Hey, me too. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
See you later. Well, during that, we did get a thumbs up from one of our city councilmen, Mr. Clayton Perry.
Did we?
So, Dinesh D'Souza, trust me, folks, is a rock star.
Oh, yeah.
In the conservative world, and well deserved. He is just a a very well-educated man with a real soft demeanor that I think comes from having in-depth knowledge on a particular subject. And his subject is the Democrats and crossing the line and, the progressivism and how all of this came to be from a historical perspective. And the movie is, I thought it was very good. It was very well done.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I learned a lot too.
Yeah, it was out there. Mm-hmm. So Uncle Bocce left us with a little bit of time we weren't expecting to have. So enjoy our moment of silence. What else should we talk about? What's in the news? I mean, at the top of the news or the forefront in my mind is Aretha Franklin, just because she was the first lady of soul and way too close to my age. But we kind of grew up together, if you will, and got to hear her and see her. So, she was always, right up until the very end, I am certain, a class act. 117 charted songs.
117.
Wow.
117 songs.
Wow, I didn't know she had that many. Wow.
That she put out there that made the charts.
Like near Carole King's amount?
In the same breath with Carole King, you bet.
Yeah.
So, which is
that was fun too. What we saw.
Yeah,
Carole King.
We got to go to New York City on one of our trips. Not sure whether we told the audience, and we took in a Broadway play, which what was the name? Beautiful.
Beautiful.
And it's the Carole King story before she became Carole King. In other words, she was always Carole King, but she was behind the scenes.
That's right.
She grew up as a songwriter and writing zippity-doo hip-hop songs for all of the real popular artists at the time. I don't remember the names. They were all presented in the movie. It just came, in the play. Yeah. It was really pretty cool.
Yeah.
She started writing songs when she was 16 and became real good at it, and then moved to California and went off on her own and became the Carole King that we know.
She was solo all around.
There's always a story. The lesson learned there is there's always a story behind what you see as a star. You know what I'm saying? There's just always something else to it that helps make them who they are. Yes, ma'am.
Like another one is Tina Turner.
Yes.
Boy.
Yes. That was a rough story.
Yes.
But there's
she came out shining though.
Yep.
On her own.
Well, because their heart's in the right place.
That's right.
They're doing the right thing for the right reason.
That's right.
And it carries you through.
Yep.
In local politics, just to give you a heads up of things that are going on in our town, and you can compare to what's going on in your town.
Sure can.
You may have heard us from time to time express a certain amount of angst with our local government officials. And they are extremely independent. They think they got elected because they're smarter than everybody else.
That's right. That's what they think.
That's what they think.
Yes.
And they proceed to do their job as if we told them they were smarter than everybody else. Mm-hmm. No, we told them to represent us. And ours locally do not all, this is not an allness statement, but the majority ignore public opinion. Mm-hmm. So what happened locally was our Firefighters Association.
Yes, go Firefighters.
Our first responders took it upon themselves to underwrite financially, which is legal. They had a political action committee, gathered, 200,000 signatures? It was way over the amount that they needed. Way over the top. To amend our city charter on 3 particular issues.
Yes.
One of which, give them back to me.
One is which allowing us to have a vote when the council decides to spend money. Okay.
Okay.
That it goes back to the people.
Right. Okay.
That's one of them. I'm not sure I remember the other two.
The second one of the other two was to cap the salary.
Yes.
Of the city manager.
City manager.
Which, by the way,
yeah.
Speaking of irony and just plain old gall, guts, and stupidity, our San Antonio, the San Antonio Express News, which is the newspaper in town, and completely left-leaning, all right? Well, we've talked about the newspaper issue and how that came to be, and most major cities only have one. And so they decided to attack the governor of the state of Texas, because of the salaries of his staff. It seems that our governor pays more than the governor of Florida pays for his staff, or the governor of California pays for his staff.
So what?
Go ahead. We're the biggest and the best in the country.
Yeah.
But they still only make half of what the city manager does of the city of San Antonio.
Yes.
Now, is that upside down or what?
It sure is.
Very upside down.
His staff, his chief of staff up there makes $250,000 a year, and I'm sure earns every penny of it.
Sure.
Taking care of the governor. City manager Scully makes $500,000 a year.
Salary. That's not her expense account.
Or
And
bonus.
she still looks the way she does. Wow.
It all comes down. She's tough. That's what it all comes down to. You got the money, girl. Fix yourself
That's
up.
right. There's a thing called care credit.
I haven't, the thing is, I haven't heard one thing that this woman has done for the benefit of the people of San Antonio.
You won't.
I mean, I don't read the Express News. I don't read the local news and all that.
So what's the third one? What was the third one? It had something to do with city employees' salaries or something. I've forgotten. Anyway.
Yeah, there were three of them, though.
But there's three issues that have been added to. They're now will be on the November ballot. Mm-hmm. And they tried to stop it in court and couldn't. And it all has to do with limiting the power of local government.
Yes.
So for those of you in the audience, if it's happening in your hometown, you can do something about it.
That's right.
Check out on the net, check out City of San Antonio versus Firefighters Association or whatever. Mm-hmm. Do a little bit of research and find out what's going on. And you might want to take the same angle in your area. I hope you enjoyed our conversation with Dinesh tonight. It will not be the last one that we'll have, I am certain. We will double back and catch up with him as soon as possible. And it also triggered some people that we're going to have on the air real soon. And coming up shortly, either not Labor Day, but shortly after Labor Day, we are probably, we're 99% sure, we're going to shift to a Sunday show. And I don't even know what time on Sunday it's going to be, because 99% of our listeners listen to us via podcast and alternate channels to the live broadcast. Mm-hmm. We put the live broadcast out there so that we can produce a podcast that then goes out to networks on the East Coast and the West Coast and basically goes worldwide. So our numbers are substantially higher 2 to 3 days after the broadcast. So it doesn't really make much difference when we're live. So due to some other challenges, we're going to shift to a Sunday.
As long as we're alive when we're doing the show, right?
Yeah. Front row. Time to go. You have been listening to the Doc Owen Show. Thank you so much for having us. We really appreciate it. Now go out there this week and take care, pay attention, and God bless.
Bye-bye, folks. God bless.